The oceans are swimming in it. Rivers are choked with it. Coastlines are collecting it. Landfills are clogged with it. Our trash bags are filled with it. And it's even floating in the air we breathe.
It's plastic, the material we can't seem to live without that also lasts longer than a lifetime. Plastic can take hundreds of years to break down, and even then, only into microparticles. It's hurting animals. It's in our food chain. Plastic is everywhere.
What if I told you that the most successful marketing campaign in history wasn't for a sneaker, a smartphone, or a car? It wasn't just do it or think different. No, the greatest trick corporate America ever pulled was convincing you the little triangle on the bottom of your plastic water bottle means it's actually going to be recycled. We've all been there. You finish your iced coffee, you look for the blue bin, and you toss the plastic cup in. You feel a little hit of dopamine. You did your part. You saved the planet. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost everything you just toss in that bin is going to a landfill. Or worse, it's being shipped halfway across the world to be burned. For 40 years, we have been sold a lie designed to keep us buying, consuming, and wasting, all while feeling morally superior about it. Today, we're digging into a $500 billion deception of the plastics industry. We're going to find out why recycling is actually a myth, how a garbage boat changed history, and why that little triangle on your yogurt cup is actually a masterclass in psychological manipulation. To understand how we got duped, we have to go back to the spring of 1987. Imagine it's March, hair is big, shoulder pads are even bigger. And in Islip, New York, a local landfill has reached capacity. The town has a problem. 3,168 tons of trash and nowhere to put it. So an entrepreneur named Lowell Harrison has an idea. He rents a barge called the Mobro 4000, loads it up with the garbage, and plans to sail it down to North Carolina to convert it into methane gas. It sounds like a solid plan until it wasn't. When the barge arrived in North Carolina, a local news crew filmed the barge from a helicopter. And in that pile of trash, they spotted something that changed everything. A bedpan. People panicked. The rumor spread that the barge was carrying dangerous medical waste from New York City hospitals. North Carolina refused to let it dock, so the barge sailed on. It went to Louisiana, got rejected. It went to Florida, got rejected again. It sailed to Mexico, Belize, and the Bahamas. Every single port turned it away. The Mexican Navy even sent out ships to block it from entering their waters. For months, Americans watched on the nightly news as this garbage wandered the Atlantic like a flying Dutchman of filth.
The most watched load of garbage in the memory of man.
6 ports have already refused the refuge.
The barge was a PR disaster, but not for the garbage haulers. It was a disaster for the plastic industry. You see, in the 1980s, plastics were exploding. It was cheap, it was versatile, and it was everywhere. But the Mobro incident made trash visible. Americans suddenly realized that all this disposable stuff had to go somewhere. And politicians started talking about the B word, bans.
Highly controversial action. One county in New York State has voted to ban all packaging made of 2 kinds of plastic.
It was a critical moment. A growing backlash was threatening the future of plastic.
In what may be part of a national trend, the City Council of St. Paul, Minnesota, voted to outlaw the use of polystyrene plastics.
City councils across the country began proposing bans on plastic bags and plastic packaging. For petrochemical giants, the companies that turn oil into plastic, this was an existential threat. If cities banned plastics, their profit would evaporate, and they needed a way out. They needed a way to make plastic seem sustainable. They needed to invent a system that didn't exist yet. Now you might be thinking, what's wrong with recycling? It makes sense. And for materials like aluminum and glass, you're right. Aluminum is infinitely recyclable. An aluminum can you throw away today can be back on the shelf as a new can in 60 days. But plastic? Plastic is different. Plastic is actually miserable to recycle. There are thousands of different types, and they can't be melted down together. And every time you recycle plastic, it degrades. It gets weaker. The industry knew this. In fact, we now have internal memos from the 1970s where industry executives admitted that recycling plastic was infeasible and that there was serious doubt it could ever be economically viable. But they didn't care about viability, they cared about perception. Enter Larry Thomas, the former president of the Society of the Plastic Industry. In a moment of candid honesty that defines this entire scam, he explained the strategy. If the public thinks that recycling is working, then they're not going to be as concerned about the environment. So how do you sell a lie this big? Easy, you change the language. In 1988, the Society of the Plastic Industry introduced the Resin Identification Code, or RIC. You know the symbol. It's a 3 chasing arrows with numbers in the middle. It looks exactly like the universal recycling symbol, which, by the way, was designed by college students named Gary Anderson in 1970. And the public was very familiar with it. The plastic industry took that symbol and slapped it on everything. Here's the trick. That symbol does not mean recyclable. It literally just identifies the type of plastic. Number 1 is PET, your water bottle. It's recyclable. Number 2 is HDPE, milk jugs, recyclable as well. But number 3 through 7, they are PVC, LDPE, and a whole bunch of other acronyms that you cannot even pronounce. For the most part, these are trash. There is almost no market for them. It costs more to collect, sort, and clean a number 5 yogurt cup than what the reclaimed plastic is worth. But here is the genius of the scam. The industry didn't just ask companies to use the symbol, they lobbied the state legislatures, specifically 36 states, to mandate this symbol on all plastic packaging. They used the law to force the recyclable look onto unrecyclable trash. This leads us to a psychological trap called wishcycling. We feel guilty about our consumption, so we toss the greasy pizza box and the plastic fork into the bin. We're wishing it gets recycled. But this actually makes things worse. When you throw non-recyclable into the bin, you contaminate the stream. It jams the machines, and it makes the whole bale of recycled plastic worthless. And the industry loves this because it shifts the blame to you by framing the issue as littering or improper sorting. They made waste a consumer problem, not a production problem. They absolved themselves of the responsibility for creating the waste in the first place. But here is where the economics gets truly dark. Plastic is made from fossil fuels, oil and gas. And right now, thanks to the shale boom, the United States is producing more oil and gas than ever before. The petrochemical industry is currently facing a massive glut, an oversupply of virgin plastic resin. This has driven the price of new plastic through the floor. In 2024, virgin plastic is significantly cheaper than the recycled plastic. We're talking about a gap of nearly $800 per ton. Think about it from a business perspective. If you are Coca-Cola or Unilever and you want to make a bottle, are you going to pay $1,200 a ton for recycled plastic that is gray, low quality, and hard to source? Or are you going to pay $800 a ton for pristine, clear, virgin plastic directly from ExxonMobil? The incentives are completely broken. The market rewards using new plastic. For a long time, we had a dirty little secret to hide this economic failure. We just ship it all to China. For decades, the US and Europe sent millions of tons of plastic waste to China. We counted it as recycled the moment it left our ports. It didn't matter if it was actually recycled or just dumped in a river in rural China. In our books, it was a win. But in 2018, China passed the national sword policy, banning the import of most foreign trash. Overnight, the global recycling market collapsed. The illusion was shattered. The US recycling rate for plastic plummeted to about 5%. So what is the industry doing now that the curtain has been pulled back? Are they reducing production? Of course not. They are doubling down with a new buzzword, chemical recycling or advanced recycling.
Enter chemical recycling, a process that can break down any plastic, type 1 through 7, into its molecular building blocks. and then theoretically convert it into virgin quality plastic, chemicals, or diesel and petrol fuels.
You will see ads for this everywhere. The promise is that they can take all those hard to recycle plastic and break them down at a molecular level to turn them back into brand new plastic. Infinite loop with no waste. It sounds amazing, but it's also largely a scam. Most of these advanced recycling plants uses a process called a pyrolysis. They heat the plastic up in a low oxygen environment, but investigations by the NRDC found that most of these facilities are not turning waste back into plastic. They're turning it into fuel, things like diesel or kerosenes. They're literally just melting plastic to burn it as fuel, which releases toxic chemicals and greenhouse gases. But they call it recycling, so they can claim to be part of the circular economy. It's greenwashing on an industrial scale, designed to delay regulation while they build more plastic plants. So where does that leave us? We're trapped in a scarcity loop of consumption, fueled by moral licensing. Moral licensing is a psychological phenomenon where doing something good gives us permission to do something bad. When you see that recycling symbol on a bottle, your brain gives you a pass. You feel good. You feel like you have licensed yourself to buy the product. You think to yourself, it's okay that I bought this plastic wrapped fruit. I'm going to recycle it. The recycling bin alleviates your guilt. It removes the friction of consumption, and that is exactly what the plastic industry wants. They don't want you to recycle because they care about the planet. They want you to believe in recycling, so you keep buying plastic. So is recycling a scam? For aluminum, paper, and cardboard, no, keep doing that. Those markets work. But for plastic, yeah, it's a system designed to fail. It's a 30-year-old marketing campaign meant to protect the profits of the oil and gas industry. It is a way to sell you a clear conscience while they sell you more trash. Does that mean you should stop recycling? No, you should still recycle your number ones and twos, but we need to stop pretending that the blue bin is the solution. The solution isn't better recycling, it's buying less crap. It's choosing glass or aluminum when you can, and it's realizing that every time you see those 3 chasing arrows on a plastic bottle, you're not looking at an environmental promise. You're looking at a receipt for a transaction you didn't even know you're part of. The plastic trap is deep, and it's built to keep you in it. But at least now you know how the game is played. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. If you like this type of content, it will mean the world to me if you can hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.